Cold wind moved through the tall trees as Mira walked back toward her small research cabin at the edge of the hills. The sky was turning orange and gray as the sun dropped low. She had been collecting samples all day from the nearby river, and her arms felt tired, but her heart felt strong. This quiet place was where she felt safe. It was far from the noise of the city, and far from people who did not believe in her work. Mira was not famous. She was not rich. But she was deeply focused. For 3 years she had lived in that cabin, while studying the strange changes happening in the water and soil around the hills. Plants were growing in ways no one had seen before. Fish were showing new colors and patterns. Something important was happening, and Mira believed it could help millions of people one day. The closer she came to the cabin, the more uneasy she felt. The birds were silent. Even the wind seemed to slow. When the cabin came into view, her breath stopped. The door was broken. One window was smashed. Smoke still floated lightly into the air. Mira dropped her bag and ran. Inside, everything was ruined. Her papers were scattered. Her microscope was on the floor. Shelves were pushed over. Someone had gone through every corner. It was not a random break-in. It was a search. Mira felt her chest tighten. Her hands shook as she moved toward the small metal box hidden under the table. She pulled it open. It was empty. Her heart dropped. The small glass container that held her most important discovery was gone. Mira sank to her knees. Years of work. Endless nights. Missed meals. All of it centered around that one tiny sample. It was not gold. It was not money. It was something far more powerful. A rare living material found deep in the river that showed signs of repairing damaged cells in plants and animals. If studied correctly, it could change medicine forever. And now it was in the hands of someone she did not know. Mira wiped her eyes and stood up. She could not stay frozen. She moved quickly through the wreckage. Papers were burned. But one thing still remained. A hidden drive taped beneath the desk. She pulled it free. It was warm but still working. Every record, every test, every result was inside. Whoever came had not found it. Mira held it tightly. That was what she protected. Outside she heard footsteps. Mira froze. A shadow moved past the broken window. Someone was still there. Her mind raced. Should she run? Should she hide? She slowly moved behind the overturned table. Her breath was loud in her ears. The door creaked. A tall figure stepped inside. The stranger wore a dark jacket and gloves. He looked around slowly, as if checking if something was left behind. Mira watched him from her hiding spot. Her hands shook, but she stayed silent. The stranger stopped near the desk. He picked up a few burned papers and frowned. Then he spoke softly. Not angry. Not cruel. Just confused. He said that this was not what he expected. Mira did not understand. He turned toward the door again. As he moved, she noticed something in his hand. The glass container. Her chest burned. He was leaving with it. Mira did not think. She rushed forward. Her voice cut through the room as she told him to stop. The stranger turned fast. Their eyes met. For a moment, everything felt still. Then he ran. Mira ran after him. They raced through the trees. Branches hit her face. Her legs burned. The stranger was fast, but Mira was desperate. She shouted for him to wait, to give it back. But he did not slow. Near the edge of the hill he slipped. The container fell from his hand and rolled across the ground. Mira dove and grabbed it. The stranger stood frozen. For a long moment they stared at each other. He did not try to take it back. Instead he slowly raised his hands. He said he never meant to hurt anyone. Mira did not know if she believed him. But something in his eyes showed fear, not anger. Before she could speak, he ran again into the trees and vanished. Mira stood alone holding the container. Her legs gave out and she sat on the ground shaking. She still had it. But her cabin was gone. Her safety was gone. And now someone else knew about her discovery. That night she returned to the broken cabin and locked the door with what little was left. She placed the container and the hidden drive in her backpack. She knew she could not stay. Whatever she had found was no longer just science. It was something powerful. And someone out there wanted it badly. Mira looked toward the dark forest and wondered how many others would come looking. If this happened to someone watching this story, would they fight back or run away? That question stayed in the air as Mira packed her things. And far away in the city, a chain of events had already started because of what she protected. Mira left the hills before sunrise. The air was still cold and the sky was pale blue. She walked down the long dirt road with only a small bag on her back. Inside it was the glass container and the hidden drive. Everything she had worked for was in that bag. The cabin behind her was silent and broken, like it had lost its purpose. The city was far away, but she had no other choice. Her research was too important to stay hidden anymore. Someone had already tried to steal it. That meant others would come. The only safe place now was where people could see her work. Where truth could not be buried. When Mira reached the bus station, people stared at her torn jacket and tired face. She looked like someone who had just escaped a storm. In a way she had. She sat by the window holding her bag close. As the bus moved forward, she watched the trees fade into buildings. Every mile brought her closer to danger, but also closer to answers. In the city, she went straight to the small science center near the old river. It was not a big place, but it was filled with people who believed in discovery. Mira had shared parts of her work with them before. They trusted her. She met a man named Rio who worked there. He was calm and kind. When he saw her face, he knew something was wrong. Mira told him about the cabin. About the stranger. About the container. Rio did not interrupt. When she finished, he slowly nodded. He said that if someone broke into her place, then her discovery was already too big to hide. It had to be shared. They went into a small lab room. Mira placed the glass container on the table. Inside it, the rare material glowed faintly like a soft green light. Rio had never seen anything like it. Mira explained how it reacted to damaged cells. How plants that were dying suddenly grew again when exposed to it. How small animals recovered from sickness. Rio looked at her in shock. This could change everything. They began testing it carefully. Every result was stronger than the last. Within hours they knew Mira had discovered something that could heal in ways medicine never could before. But while they worked, someone else was watching. The stranger from the cabin had not disappeared. He was in the city too. He sat in a dark cafe staring at his phone. On the screen was a photo of Mira. He had taken it earlier near the bus station. He made a quiet call. He told someone that she was here. That she still had it. And that time was running out. Back at the lab, Mira felt a strange fear. She looked out the window and saw people moving through the streets. Anyone could be watching. Anyone could be connected to the stranger. Rio suggested they send a message to the city council. If they made the discovery public, it would be safer. The more people knew, the harder it would be to steal or hide. Mira agreed. They prepared a simple presentation. No big words. Just truth. What it was. What it could do. Within hours the council agreed to see them. Mira walked into the tall building with her hands shaking. This was not how she imagined sharing her work. But there was no turning back. She placed the container on the table in front of the officials. She explained how it could help people who were sick. How it could change the future of healing. The room fell silent. They tested it right there on damaged plant samples. In minutes the leaves became green again. Everyone stared. News spread fast. Cameras arrived. Phones recorded everything. The city was buzzing. A woman who had been in pain for years watched from home. A father with a sick child watched from a hospital room. People everywhere saw hope. Mira felt both proud and afraid. Because now the whole world knew. Outside the building, the stranger stood in the crowd. He watched as Mira became the center of attention. His eyes were not angry. They were heavy. He whispered that it was too late now. Something bigger was coming. And Mira had no idea how close danger really was. If something like this appeared in real life, would people protect it or try to control it? That question now rested on the future of the entire city. The city did not sleep that night. Screens everywhere showed Mira and her discovery. News stations talked about the glowing material again and again. People shared clips on their phones. Hope moved faster than fear. But not everyone felt hope. In a tall building far from the science center, a group of powerful people sat around a long table. They had seen the same images. They understood what that small glass container really meant. It meant control. It meant money. It meant power. And they wanted it. While the city was distracted by the miracle, the stranger from the cabin walked quietly through the streets. His name was Leon. He had not meant to become part of something so big. He had been paid to take the container. Nothing more. But when he saw Mira running after him that day, something inside him changed. She was not greedy. She was not loud. She was just trying to protect something that could help people. Now he knew others were coming for it, and they would not stop. Leon made a choice. He went to the science center. Mira was still there working with Rio. They were preparing more tests for the city council. When Leon appeared at the door, security tried to stop him, but he raised his hands and said he wanted to help. Mira saw his face and froze. It was the stranger. Rio stood in front of her. Leon spoke calmly. He said that people much bigger than him were already moving. He said the cabin was only the first step. Mira felt cold. Leon told them that powerful groups wanted to own the discovery and hide it until they could control how it was used. He said they were planning to take it within hours. Mira looked at the glowing container. She knew he was telling the truth. Rio said they had to act now. If they kept it in one place, it would be taken. The only way to protect it was to give it to everyone. They made a risky plan. Using the hidden drive, Mira sent all her research to every science center she could reach. Every test, every formula, every note. It moved across the world in minutes. Leon watched as the files were sent. He smiled for the first time. Now no one could erase it. Just as the last file was sent, the building doors opened. A group of people in dark clothes walked in. Their faces were serious. Their voices were cold. They demanded the container. Mira stepped forward. She said the truth was already out. They could take the glass, but they could not take what the world had already seen. The room was filled with tension. Cameras from earlier were still recording. People across the city were watching live. The dark group realized they had lost. Slowly they left. The city erupted in cheers. Mira felt her knees shake as the danger passed. Leon quietly slipped away into the crowd. He did not want thanks. He only wanted to make one right choice. In the weeks that followed, the discovery was studied everywhere. New treatments began. Lives started to change. Mira moved into a new lab with real protection. She was no longer alone. Sometimes she looked back at the broken cabin in her mind and how everything started there. One small place. One brave choice. One thing protected. If someone tried to take away something that could help the world, would you fight to protect it? Drop a comment if you believe one person can change everything. Speech balloon. The city looked brighter in the weeks after Mira shared the research, but the brightness did not feel simple. It was the kind of light that came with shadows behind it. People smiled more in the streets. Hospitals showed early signs of change. The science center became a place of constant motion. Reporters stood outside every day. Parents arrived with photos of their children. Older people came with trembling hands and quiet prayers. Hope was real, and it was loud. Mira tried to stay focused. She kept telling herself that the work mattered more than attention. Still, attention followed her like a second shadow. Every time she stepped outside, someone recognized her. Some people thanked her with tears in their eyes. Others stared like they were measuring her, deciding what she was worth. Inside the new lab, the walls were clean and the equipment was better than anything she had in the cabin. Security guards stood at the doors. Cameras watched the halls. It should have felt safe, but Mira felt something else instead. Safety was not only about locked doors. It was also about what people chose to do with knowledge. Rio worked beside her, calm as always. He reminded her to eat. He reminded her to rest. But when she looked at his face, she could tell he was worried too. They were not worried about the discovery failing. They were worried about it succeeding too fast. Because success attracted the wrong kind of hunger. One morning, a meeting was called at City Hall. Mira and Rio were invited as special guests. The council wanted to discuss next steps for the city. The room was crowded with officials, doctors, and business people. Some wore friendly smiles. Some hid their thoughts behind perfect suits and polite words. Mira sat at the long table and listened. The council leader spoke about building a new research facility. He spoke about creating a program for public health. His voice sounded supportive, but the words underneath felt sharp. He said the city needed structure and control, so the discovery would not be misused. He said they should limit access until a single approved group could manage it. Mira felt her stomach tighten. She asked a simple question. Who would be that group? The council leader avoided a direct answer. He talked about partnerships, private funding, and security. He talked about how the world could be dangerous, and how ideas could be stolen. Mira understood what he really meant. He did not want the discovery to be stolen. He wanted it to be owned. Rio leaned toward her and whispered that they needed to stay calm. Mira nodded, but her mind was moving fast. She had released the data, yes. But the living sample in the container was still rare. Growing it was difficult. Replicating it required skill and careful patience. Whoever held the best process would hold the most power. That meant a new kind of fight was beginning. After the meeting, Mira stepped outside into the cold air. The city looked normal. Cars moved. People walked. But she felt like something unseen was circling above it all. That evening, she found a note slipped under her lab door. No name. No logo. Just a few words written in neat letters. You did the right thing by sharing it. Now do the right thing again. Do not let them lock it away. Mira stared at the note for a long time. Only one person in the city spoke to her like that. Only one person had been close enough to leave a message without being seen. Leon. Mira had not seen him since the night he warned them at the science center. She assumed he disappeared, the way shadows do when the sun rises. But the note proved he was still near. Still watching. Still carrying guilt like weight. Mira folded the note and put it in her pocket. The next day brought a problem she did not expect. A local clinic reported a strange event. A patient who had received a trial treatment showed rapid improvement, but then developed a sudden reaction that no one could explain. The doctors said it was not violent, not dramatic, but frightening in a quiet way. The patient became confused and weak. The body seemed to reject the change after accepting it. More reports followed. 2 hospitals, then 3. Not many cases, but enough to make fear spread. The news shifted overnight. Yesterday, it was a miracle. Today, it was a question. People started asking if the discovery was safe. People started saying Mira had rushed. People who once praised her now wanted someone to blame. Mira did not panic. She did not run from the problem. She returned to the lab and worked until her eyes burned. She compared notes and looked for patterns. Rio helped her sort the reports. They stayed focused on facts, not fear. The pattern appeared by the second night. Every reaction case shared one thing. The treatment used a version of the material that did not come from Myra's sample. It came from a copy. A rushed copy made by someone who did not fully understand the process. Mira felt cold again. Someone had already started trying to produce it for themselves. Rio said they needed to warn the public. Mira agreed, but she also knew how this would be used against her. The council would say, "See, this is why we need control." They would use fear as a key to lock the discovery away. Mira had to choose the next move carefully. She called a public briefing at the science center. Cameras came. People gathered. The same faces returned, but they looked different now. Less hopeful. More tense. Mira stood at the podium and spoke in simple words. She explained that the discovery was real and still full of promise. She explained that it needed careful handling. She explained that unsafe copies were being made, and that the reaction cases came from those copies, not from the original process. Then she did something risky. She showed the world the exact safety steps and the slow method needed to grow and prepare the material correctly. Some people gasped. Some people whispered that she was giving away too much. But Mira understood the truth. Secrets create black markets. Clarity reduces them. If everyone knew the safe method, the dangerous shortcuts would be easier to spot. The council leader stood up and tried to interrupt. He said this information should be restricted. He said this could cause more misuse. Mira looked at him and did not raise her voice. She said misuse happened when knowledge was trapped. She said when people were desperate, they would chase anything. The best protection was openness, training, and community science, not closed doors. The room went silent. For a moment, Mira wondered if she had made a mistake. Then a doctor in the audience stood and said she was right. Another stood. Then a nurse. Then a teacher who ran a local science program for kids. They said that the city should not hand the discovery to a small group. They said it should be guided by many eyes and many hands. The crowd began to shift. Mira felt a small wave of relief, but she knew this fight was not only in public rooms. It was also in quiet places where deals were made. That night, as she returned to her apartment, she noticed someone following her. She did not turn quickly. She did not run. She walked into a bright street and stopped near a shop window. In the reflection she saw a figure behind her, keeping distance. Myra's heart pounded. Then she heard a voice from her left, low and fast. "Keep walking. Do not look. They are not here to talk." Mira recognized it instantly. Leon stepped beside her like he had been there the whole time. His face looked tired. He looked thinner than before. Mira kept walking as he did. Leon said the group that attacked her cabin was connected to a private company that was now working with council members. He said they planned to take her original sample and move it out of the city, then claim it was for safety. Mira asked how he knew. Leon answered without drama. He said he used to do jobs for people like that. He said he hated that life. He said he was trying to fix what he broke. Mira did not know if she could fully trust him, but she could trust the fear in his voice. She asked what she should do. Leon said she needed to protect the sample by making it useless to steal. Mira understood what that meant, and the idea hurt. The sample was not just a thing. It was years of her life. But she also knew the bigger truth. The discovery belonged to people who needed it, not to people who wanted to sell it. They reached a quiet corner near the river. Leon pointed toward the science center across the water. He said security was good, but not perfect. He said the attempt would happen soon. Mira stood in the cold air and made a decision. She would not hide the sample. She would not guard it like a treasure. She would transform it into something that could not be held by one hand. The next morning, Mira and Rio began a new phase. They took the original sample and used it to create multiple stable starter cultures. Not many, just enough. They placed them in sealed containers with tracking and documentation. Then they sent them to trusted labs in different places, not just in the city, but outside it too. Not one lab. Many. Not one key. Many. If one was stolen, the others could continue. If one was controlled, the others could resist. When the council tried to call an emergency meeting, Mira did not go. Instead, she released a public statement. She said the discovery would remain open, guided by an international safety group made of independent labs, hospitals, and educators. She said the city could still be proud, but it could not own it. The city reacted like a storm. Some cheered. Some argued. Some complained. But the biggest thing was this. The fear started to fade. Because people saw that Mira was not chasing attention. She was chasing fairness. 2 days later, a raid happened at the Science Center. Security stopped it. Police arrived. The news reported it as a failed break-in. The public did not learn every detail, but Mira knew what it meant. Leon's warning had been true. That evening, Mira stood on the roof of the Science Center and looked over the city lights. Rio stood beside her. For the first time in weeks, he looked a little less tense. Mira asked if he thought they had done enough. Rio said they had done what honest people do. They made the truth harder to bury. Mira nodded. When she turned, she saw Leon at the far end of the roof near the stair door. He did not come closer. He simply lifted his hand in a small goodbye. Mira wanted to ask him where he would go. She wanted to ask him if he was safe. But Leon did not wait for questions. He walked back into the stairwell and disappeared. Mira watched the door close. She understood something then. Some people do not stay to be heroes. They stay just long enough to stop a disaster, then leave quietly so the world can move forward. Weeks later, the reaction cases stopped. The safe method spread. Training programs started. The discovery became less like a secret treasure and more like a shared tool. Mira still missed the cabin sometimes. The quiet. The trees. The simple life. But she also understood something she never understood before. When you find something that can change lives, the hardest part is not discovering it. The hardest part is protecting it from the kind of people who only see value in control. If you were in Myra's place, would you keep the discovery private for safety, or share it so no one can own it? And what city are you watching from right now? Drop a comment and tell me what you would do if you were her.